for me, the biggest piece of writing advice that I wish I had gotten was just sit down and write the book. That, 1,500 page monstrosity that I was talking about, part of what took me so long to finish it was I would start writing, I would write like 30 pages, and I would go out back and edit the crap out of those 30 pages. And I'd write 10 more pages. And I know something changed. I have to go back and make those pages perfect. And you can see how that like 1 step forward, 8 steps back kind of does not equal progress. So give yourself permission to suck and write the book.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Author Adjacent, a show about the journey from hobbyist writer to professional author. I'm your host, Michael Vadney, and today I am sitting with Greta Kelly, co-host of the SFF Addicts podcast and author of the Warrior Witch Duology and the Queen of Days. Welcome to the show, Greta.
Hi, I'm so happy to be on.
I know. I have finally completed the full set of the SFF Addicts podcast hosts.
We're like Pokemon. You can collect us all.
It's pretty great. I feel like I should have a gauntlet with like stones for each of you.
And collectively we do control the universe, so that would be smart.
Hey, I believe it, especially in our little sphere. I mean, if things are happening, usually you guys are involved. But to give a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about, this episode is just going to be talking about yourself, your journey, us shooting the shit, and whatever we feel like talking about. But the second one, come back next week, people. We're going to be digging into query letters, which, as I was saying offline, I don't know much about. So I'm excited to share that with people because it's not something that we really talk about, especially the various aspects of traditional publishing. So come back next week for that.
It's a unique form of torture, but it can be fun, I guess. Necessary evil? ? I don't know.
I think that's where we're going here. I'm like, you gotta know this. Like, it's going to help you.
It's information that will help, I hope, yeah.
Yeah. But the first thing that I wanted to ask you, actually, is what started your passion for writing? Like, was there a key moment, or was it just something that you always knew you wanted to do?
Gosh, no, it wasn't something I always knew I wanted to do. Funnily enough, I was actually a very late reader. I really struggled to learn how to read. I was very struggled with dyslexia a lot when I was a young person. So I didn't really fall in love with reading probably until middle school. And I say fall in love kind of with air quotes because the first book that I remember choosing to read was Gone with the Wind. And it was the summer before 6th grade. Very random choice. I think I chose it because it was something that my parents had, and there was a girl. Those are the two reasons that I chose it. And I was also the one because I knew I was really struggling to read in elementary school, and I just remember thinking that I was not going to go to middle school being the kid that couldn't read or was afraid to read in front of class. So I was like, come hell or high water, I am going to read this book before 6th grade begins. And the hell part was real because I fucking hate that book. I rage read through 600 pages of Scarlett O'Hara being an angsty bitch. But I did it, and I proved to myself that that's basically my life in a nutshell. And
just
I
hate
proved
reading
myself,
life.
Yeah, that I could do it. Just stubbornness. Being an author is 90% stubbornness, I think, and 10% luck. But I proved myself that I could read. And I feel like the universe rewarded me because immediately when I got into 6th grade was when the first Harry Potter book came out. And as problematic as rolling is these days, back then it was a huge entryway for so many people of my generation and those that followed to find the joy in not only reading but in fantasy. And after that, I really lucked into a great friend group. We were all very artistically driven. And I started writing books when I was in high school. And I wish I could say that I never looked back, but then the recession of the 2000s hit, and I was like, oh shit, I better go to college and get a real degree. So I went to college for business, graduated, started working at a bank, and realized, oh no, this is horrible. I cannot do this for the rest of my life. So I was the weird lady who didn't talk to anyone on her lunch breaks and just wrote books in the cafeteria at work. But it worked out for me because that's how I wrote The Frozen Crown. So here we are.
That is a great story. I've never heard of anyone hate reading a book that should have been way beyond the level that you should have been reading at that point. 6th grade for Gone with the Wind?
Yeah, and it's probably why I hated it so much, but I refuse to try it again, so I'll never know.
Yeah. I've never read the book, but I actually grew up with the movie. My grandma would put it on all the time, and she'd be like, here, watch this. It's quality TV. And it was like that and like Fiddler on the Roof and stuff like that. But man, reading it at 6th grade, it
was
worked,
definitely
though. You got the
eye-opening.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. Worth it in the end,
And you were
maybe.
rewarded with The Boy Who Lived.
That's right. The
Nice.
girl who bitched to the boy who lived.
That is so much. That's now the tagline of the episode right there.
Glad I could help.
Thank you. So at what point during that whole process did you feel like you were an author?
Gosh, that is always like the moving target. I think the first time I had my real big girl moment of, oh, this is something that I can like talk to people about was when I went to my first writing conference. It was a really unique conference that used to take place in New York. It was called the Work Conference. And what made it unique is not necessarily that there were agents and editors there, because lots of agents and editors go to lots of conferences, but it was very boutique. So there were maybe like 30 authors who came, and then, 15 to 20 agents/editors. And you were able to submit your query letter in the first 5 or 10 pages of your book before the conference started, so that each, like the agents you met with to pitch, had time to actually read through your package and give you feedback on it. So if nothing else, you would come out the other end of the conference with like a really great worksheet for how to make your opening pages and your query letter absolutely outstanding. I lucked out and I came out of the conference with 2 offers of representation. So at that point, I was like, oh, shit. I am an author now.
That's very poignant. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's going to be super useful for our next week episode. So
that's right.
awesome.
I learned a lot about writing query letters. So
yeah, seems like a small conference though. Is that like a normal size?
No, for this one, it was her name. The woman who who ran it was Rebecca Heyman, and at that point she was an independent editor. Now she is a full-time editor with Entangled, the publishing house. But at that time, she was just like, helping out authors who either wanted to self-publish, like Elise Kova. She edited Elise Kova's earlier works, as well as people like me who wanted to go traditional, but didn't necessarily have the toolkit at that point to edit my own books. Because like anything, editing is a skill, as you know. That's unfortunately much different from drafting, but you learn as you go in these things, and that's how I had to learn.
Yeah,
So.
and it's critical to get another eye on your work because there are so many things where you're like, yeah, that works, and then someone else looks at it and you're like, no, it doesn't.
Maybe try again.
I'm sorry, buddy. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe a little harder.
Yeah, I love, God bless editors and everyone who has that good editorial eye. I always think like, if I make it big, I'm not going to be that author that refuses to get my work edited, because no, you can always tell. You can always tell, because I feel like
so
the
much
quality
better.
always suffers when authors refuse to have their books like very critically line edited.
Wow. So when you got that representation there, that was with your the Warrior Witch Duology, correct?
That's right. Yep, The Frozen Crown and The Seventh Queen.
Wow. Okay. So how did you approach developing that initial concept for the book?
Well, I grew up, the first one, The Frozen Crown. So I'm the youngest of 4 children. I have 2 very, I guess, rambunctious older brothers and a much older sister. And so unsurprisingly, I basically did whatever my brothers wanted to do, because that's what happens when you're the youngest child. And it being the late 90s or middle to late 90s and early 2000s, that included watching just a whole crap ton of Ridley Scott war movies, Gladiator, every Robin Hood that ever Robin Hooded, Braveheart, basically anything Mel Gibson was in before he went on to the crazy racist rants. And I remember thinking, like, watching all those movies, why do the women always suck? Or why do they just like not exist? Or they're there and then they die, or they're there but they're not doing anything but crocheting. And I just wanted to be in the story, to have like a role in the book. And I had this like daydream one time about a woman on a hill with an army at her back, like looking down at this slightly crumbling seaside castle. And I was like, oh shit, that's it. That's the story. And that ended up being Askia, and that scene was the first pages of The Frozen Crown.
That is awesome. Oh my God. Okay. I've read your Queen of Days, and I really like that for its like magical heistness, but I haven't read the Warrior Witch Duology yet. And geez, you already sold me on it. I need to check that out.
It's much different tonally than the
I'm
Queen
noticing.
of Days. Yeah, Queen of Days is very like heist and hijinks, and it has all of the D&D like feel to it. Where the Warrior Witch Duology is much more like Daevabad trilogy, very political, very epic in scale, lots of magic and twists and some romance, but not a whole ton. So if you're not a romance reader, don't worry. But yeah.
So,
my poli-sci degree went to hard work with the Frozen Crown books.
Oh, good. At least it's being used for something.
Yeah, for something.
So you wrote a duology. How do you think that experience of writing a duology is different than writing a standalone or the typical like trilogy?
I mean, I really lucked out with the way that it all kind of took place. I had written The Frozen Crown first, got my agent, we took it on submission. And when we started submitting it around to publishing houses, I mean, I knew it couldn't be one book for reasons.
Non-spoiler reasons.
For non-spoiler reasons, it had to be more than one book. At that point, I was like, it'll probably be a trilogy, because that's what I had grown up with. That was kind of just the way that fantasy leaned. But not so much anymore. So when we sold it to Harper Voyager, it was very late 2018, early 2019 when we sold it to Voyager. And they were instantly like, nope, we want it to be 2 books. So I was like, oh, okay. I hadn't read many duologies at all at that point. But the lucky part is that their schedule, their publishing schedule was already, even in 2009, basically filled up until 2021. So they're like, well, we're gonna publish both books in 2021, which was very unusual at that time to have 2 adult fantasy books published in the same year. So I was like, great, that gives me like 2 years to figure out how to wrap up the story and make it the way that it needs to be. So I always feel very lucky in that, because I know so many fellow writers who really struggle with second book syndrome. And I feel like I was completely sheltered from that, because it was just me and my agent and my editors and no one else. There was no like expectation from the audience at that point. So I really felt free to do creatively what I felt like I needed to get done without the extra pressure that comes from second book syndrome as usual. But I think it worked out. I really have a soft spot in my heart for those books. So I'm always excited when readers say that they found them and love them.
They're beautiful covers, and I see your advertisements for it on like Instagram and stuff like that, and I'm always like, this is some high quality stuff she's got going on over here. Like,
well, thank you.
Of course. So when you found out that you had to write it as like a duology all of a sudden, did you have a trilogy planned, like a trilogy's worth of story planned, and you're like, oh shit, I have to cut this? Or how was that process of paring it down?
Yeah, luckily I didn't really. Right now I am a much more intensive plotter. But at that point in my career, I hadn't really found the joy of spreadsheets. Thank you, MJ. my fellow co-host, for anyone who doesn't know, MJ Kuhn is a spreadsheet plotter, which sounds like madness until you try it, and then you'll never go back. But at that point, it was just like each book in the trilogy in my mind was just like a paragraph in a notebook somewhere. So it really didn't feel like there was a lot that I needed to pare down. It was really just more of a matter of, okay, so this climax that you thought was going to happen is actually a midpoint climax, and then just kind of like shuffle everything over. So I guess there are some plus sides for being more of a pantser, and that is the specific situation I think that it is.
No, that makes sense. I have never plotted with spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. I like to use them for tracking information, for like, this is the chapters and this is what they do, but I don't outline in them. It's always like summary for me, remembering, oh yeah, chapter 54 is where this happens. I don't even know how you would outline with with a spreadsheet. I'm going to have to tap MJ
Yeah,
and be like, hey,
you have
teach
to
me
ask
your ways.
MJ. Have her send you the spreadsheet she rigged up for like Among Thieves or something. It is madness. She showed me one time and I broke out into hives. That's just before I actually tried it because I'm not a lover of Excel.
Yeah.
But here we are.
You will learn, though.
You will learn to love it.
There you go. But speaking of MJ, the SFF Addicts podcast, you are the newest addition to the host. You've been doing that for, is it over a year at this point or almost a year?
Just about a year, somewhere close. Yeah, I joined in early 2025. What is time? What year is it? I can't. Yes, early 2025 is when I joined.
We just turned over. Yeah, I remember when they were making the announcements and I'm like, oh, who's Greta? And since then, like we've been talking and stuff. And
yeah.
I'm very glad that you joined them so that we could get to meet and everything. But what was that experience from your end of joining that podcast?
It's been such a whirlwind. MJ and I have known each other since like mid-2020 when we were both part of this Facebook group for authors who were debuting in 2021. And that group like saved my life because there's so much you don't know and so much that I feel like traditional publishing really tries to keep like everybody in the dark about. So having a group of people that you can go to saying like, so my editor said X, Y, and Z. Is this a real thing? Is this a good sign? Is it a bad sign? It's just like having other people in your corner. And that was like especially true because we were all debuting in the middle of the pandemic. And it was very, isolating for so many reasons, but doubly so when you've got, the project of your dreams that you've been working on for a decade that's you're trying to write and publish and the world is, feeling like it's ending. So that's how MJ and I met. Very like intense circumstances for a really actually like fun and great relationship. And we were like, we go to each other's book launches and we try to, see our friends that way. But she had mentioned when, this was in 2023, she had come out to Wisconsin for the launch of The Queen of Days. And she had mentioned that she was thinking about going to Worldcon. And this would be the Scotland one. And I was like, oh, that sounds good. I'm going to think about going there. She's like, you should. We're going to have this whole group of people, my friend Adrian and Crystal Matar and all these other really great people. And I'm like, I don't know what those people are, but if they're friends with you, that must be really good. Well, fast forward to Scotland Worldcon, and MJ unfortunately couldn't make it. But these awesome people like Crystal Matar and Adrian M. Gibson were there. And that's how I met Adrian. And we just kind of became fast friends. He's like, we kind of look alike, so people were like, "You're siblings, right?" I mean, it kind of feels like the brother, like the little brother I never had.
I can see it. I haven't thought of it, but I can see it.
So sometimes you just click with people, and Adrian and MJ and I just kind of clicked. And so when MJ needed to like take a break from the podcast because of work stuff, she was like, we both really love Greta. Why not see if she's available? And so they asked me and I was like, are you fucking shitting me? This would be amazing. I would love to do this because I love the podcast. And I'd been very grateful that they had asked me to be on it a couple times as a guest. So stepping behind the screen, I guess, as a host was daunting, but it's been great. And I love not only Adrian and MJ, but all the readers and listeners and writers who tune in every week to listen to us jibber jab has just been friggin' amazing.
Yeah, you guys put on a quality show over there. It's been a huge inspiration for really what I do here. And like, I'm talking to you guys constantly going like, what do you think of this? Is this a good idea? So really appreciate all like the mentorship the three of you have really been giving me for a while. Thank you so much for that.
Of course. We always got to pay it forward because everyone is always in the dark about everything when you start out. So anytime we can, make the road a little bit easier for people coming from after us, I think that's why we do what we do.
That's what makes the writing community just so goddamn wholesome. Like, I love it so much. I talk about this probably like every third episode about how much I just love how all of us are high tides raise all ships. Like, oh, you have a question? I have the answer. Mm-hmm. Yes, I really struggled with that. This is how I got through it. It's just so goddamn beautiful. You don't see that in a lot of other communities organically, and it's so beautiful.
It is really the greatest. And sometimes people are like, but why would you share that information? It took you so long to learn. And aren't you guys like competition? And I'm like, no, we're not competition because other writers are just nerdy, awesome people just like me. But you know what? Readers are also fucking awesome. And they're not just going to read one book ever. It's not like you've ever met a reader who read one book that they loved and were like, you know what? I loved that book enough. I don't need to read another book.
One and done. No. I want to meet the person that says that. They have to be a unique individual with them. Yes, for science.
For science,
and maybe some museum, I'm not sure.
But that's, in my mind, like there's no point in seeing other authors as competition because the readers are out there for all of us and we just got to find them.
Yeah. I think it was something J.C.M. Burns said about how there are readers for, it was Rosaire Bushy. He was saying how there is a reader for every book. It doesn't matter how good or bad your book is. There is a reader out there that wants to read what you have to write. Like you were saying, you just have to find them.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Easier said than done sometimes, but we try.
Yeah, but that's what it goes back to what you were saying earlier with the stubbornness is just, that is the most useful thing to have in this career, in this pursuit, this passion, whatever you want to call it, is just a willingness to get up every day and keep doing it.
Yeah, I think if any of us could not do it and be perfectly happy, we probably would. But it's something that I think in our own way, we all kind of feel called to do. We feel more whole when we're writing and sharing our weird ass ideas with readers. I don't know. It's like an itch you have to scratch. But publishing, absolutely, it's 90% stubbornness and 10% luck. And when the luck doesn't hit, at least you've got the stubbornness to fall back on until it, the world spins and you get lucky again.
That's true. Oh, I'm just so excited. Sorry. I'm in waves with the emotions going on, thinking about like the community and just everyone helping each other out. Anyways, back to the interview. I will get control of it at some point. Something I did want to ask you is, are there specific themes in your stories that you find you often return to, that you like exploring in your work? And what draws you to those?
I think there are always a couple that end up showing up in my stories. The found family trope was obviously a big, a big deal that played out in The Queen of Days. I just love family dynamics, and I kind of tweaked the found family trope in The Queen of Days because most of them actually are family. The main character, Balthazar, is leading this team of thieves with his little sister, his bastard half-brother, his cousin, and her husband before this mysterious Queen of Days figure kind of rolls up on the scene. I love writing about sibling dynamics. Like I said, I have 3 other siblings, and I'm very close to all of them. And my God, do we bother each other sometimes? And that is just so much fun to write about.
It's so real.
Yes, it's so real. Oh. But like when you have good relationships with your siblings, it can be really fun to like poke fun at each other and like, have arguments about something that's actually about the time that you threw a marble when you were 10 and it broke the TV and you blamed your brother. And this is not a real story, but it's an example of the kind of fun shit that goes down between siblings. So I knew I wanted to kind of play with that trope. I think a trope that I do also come back to again and again is like this false idea that any of us are ever truly grown up. I think that it's so silly to believe that just because someone is 18 that they're suddenly an adult and they've got all their shit together and they're figured everything out. I sure as hell don't. I'm waiting for that day, but I suspect it will happen when I die. Just to be super grim. So I like playing with that idea. It's one of the reasons I find like age categories on books to be a little bit silly because nothing really separates a young adult book from an adult book other than, the whim of a publishing house. I think we're all trying to muddle through and figure out who we are and what we will and won't stand for and the things that we will stand up and fight for. And that's like really just fun ground to write upon.
Those are good seeds for a great story, and I can confirm that with the Queen of Days. And I will say there is definitely still a found family in there. I know a lot of the people are related to each other, but I can't say it without giving away spoilers. So people go read the book so you can know what I'm talking about. There is a found family, I swear.
There is, yeah. Particularly with certain assassin
Exactly.
who rolls up on the scene. She's very lonely.
Exactly.
She needs friends.
And we all do. That's the theme of the episode is we need
Yeah.
friends. That's the second subtitle. We need friends. So you were talking about it earlier with how your writing process has really changed when you used to be a pantser and now you're more of a plotter. Was it just MJ that inspired that transition, or were there other factors that influenced that growth?
No, I really wish I had met MJ like 6 years earlier and she would have could have like slapped some scent into me or something. No, I had this very like romantic idea that you just sit down and you write, and you'll just, the story will come to you and the muse will be at your beck and call. And for some people, I know that's actually true. For me, what it resulted in was like 1,500 word Gordian knot of plot that I will never be able to untangle. And that was the first book I ever wrote. And instead of learning from that lesson, because I am stubborn, I was like, I can fix this. It's too long for one book. I'll just make it 3. And then cut scene to me arbitrarily cutting the book into thirds. Like, obviously that's not how plot works. I know that now. But at the time, I was very hopeful that it would just turn out correctly. It did not. So when I had the idea for The Frozen Crown, I was like, this is a great idea. I must write this book immediately. I am not going to fumble my way for 6 years through something like the previous book. So I was like, I am just going to suck it up and write a plot. And I really thought it was going to be like writing like a book report from, you remember book reports when you were in school? I thought it was going to be like that. I thought it was going to be like pulling teeth and I was just going to hate it. And I found the opposite to be true. For me, it was really like I got to be very visual, like making Pinterest boards and hanging little like stickers and notes on the wall of what I wanted to do because I'm a very visual person. And I just found it to be very fun. It wound up being less like homework and more like a movie playing in my head. And even though it was a very rudimentary plot for what I would consider doing now, it existed. It was like a goalpost that I could work towards. And the book that I ended up publishing is nothing like that initial plot. But damn it, if that initial like outline that I made didn't help me get from point A to point B. So the process has changed since I've started plotting, but at least the original scenes, the seeds of it were there when I first started the seventh, which book? The Frozen Crown.
Yeah, we're gonna get there.
What book am I talking about?
just tripping over that finish line, but you got there. No, I think that's something that people really misunderstand about plotting is it's not these are the rules of law that I must follow to write this story. This is just the best idea I have right now, and it might get better later.
Yeah,
and that's
it's just a guidepost. Yeah, and really the best thing about plotting ahead of time is when inevitably you get writer's block or you just don't feel like it. Well, guess what? You don't have to think about it. You just have to sit down and write the plot that you wrote. And sure, you might have to throw those words away later, but at least you won the battle for the day. You sat down and you put down words.
And that's really how you're successful. It's just you win more days than you lose.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So which authors or books have had like the most significant impact on your storytelling then?
I was a huge fan of Garth Nix growing up. I think the Sabriel series is very, like you can see the death magic there from Sabriel in The Frozen Crown and the Seventh Queen. Like the through line is very strong with that one. Guy Gabriel Kay, you can see him all on the top shelf because he's my favorite. I love Guy Gabriel Kay. You can tell he's a poet. And I know I hear some like book reviewers say, oh no, he's just like an author's writer. I don't care. I love him. He's got beautiful prose. Oh, you could just like feast on it. Other big, like when I was first querying The Frozen Crown, like the Sarah J. Maas Throne of Glass books were just starting to get popular. And I was like, yes, there's an audience. So I shout out those books just because they gave me hope that someone else might want to read The Frozen Crown. Since then, I found books like House of Hollow, by, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my bookshelf to figure out what her name is.
That's all right. It's there, people. We can see
Crystal
it.
Sutherland, I think. Beautiful, beautifully written horror, fantasy horror book. I love that. T. Kingfisher is one of my all-time favorite auto-buy authors. Too many people to name. I love reading. If you are going to be a writer, you do need to read. Read
Absolutely.
extensively.
Oh my God. It drives me wild when people say, like, yeah, I don't read that much. I'm like, how are you writing then?
Yeah,
like,
it's not
how
possible.
are you learning anything?
Yeah.
Like, I understand that writing is the best way to learn to write, is to just write. But you learn so much by reading other people and just figuring out how they put their plot together, how they did this character twist right here, and just the mechanics and just observing.
Well,
drives me
absolutely.
wild.
And I hear some people very unhinged say, well, like, I don't want them to influence my writing. I want to be totally original. Darling, no one is totally original. Like, the stories we all tell have been told a million times. You are the special sauce to your book. So it doesn't matter how many other voices you read, it's still going to be your voice on the page. So worry less about that and just read some good books because they're everywhere.
Preaching to the choir. Absolutely. Oh, my God. So the Sabriel series, I've heard of that one, and I've been wanting to check it out because it's come up like multiple times in my sphere as a recommendation as like one of the best like young adult fantasy. That is for adults as well, is how it's been pitched to me.
Yeah,
but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, so it's about this, I think she's like a 16-year-old girl in an alternate world. Very interestingly, like the world is separated between above the wall, which is like 1920s-ish sort of vibe, and below the wall, which is like, kind of more stereotypical Middle Ages fantasy. The problem is that below the wall, it's basically the zombie apocalypse. The dead are everywhere. They are feasting on the living. It's total anarchy. The kingdom fell 100 years ago. And the only thing keeping people alive down there is this person called the Aberson, which is basically if Glinda the Good Witch was a necromancer, like trying to keep the dead down.
That's such a cool description.
A good necromancer, yeah. So you can see, like, well, if you read The Frozen Crown, a necromancer for good. Oh, Askia, there you are.
Yeah.
But it's so
Love
good.
that.
It's so good. Yeah. Beautifully written. Garth Nix is another auto-buy author for me, you can tell. Plus, if any animal companion will never beat Moget from this book, the book series.
Moget?
Moget is something that appears to be a cat who is like the pal of the Aberson and eventually Sabriel, and it's just the most sarcastic little white cat that has ever existed.
All right. You're building my TBR way too much. I'm going to end this episode with like 10 books in my shopping cart and be like, what happened to me?
That's how I know what I've done my job.
There you go. So, speaking of your job, how do you manage to balance everything with writing? Because you have writing, you have your own personal responsibilities, you have family, you have promoting, engaging with readers, just being a normal, healthy human being. How do you manage to find time for it all?
Oh, that's a loaded question, dude. And it's such a sliding scale. Be kind to yourself, I think, is the biggest piece of advice I can give about managing it all. I don't think anyone gets to have it all. I think that's kind of, a lie that we've all been spoon-fed in some ways. In the before times, before I had children, like I told you, I was working a full-time job, first in a bank, and then I moved into personal finance. And so I didn't have a lot of time, but I had lunch breaks. So at least I would get an hour a day of writing in during the week, and slowly but surely I chipped away with that. Fast forward to, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, my first book was about to be published. I had a new baby. I was working on book 2. That idea of getting anything done was kind of a dream that I just had to do whenever I could. So I would be editing I remember editing the 7th Queen on my phone at 2 a.m. while feeding my daughter, and just I hope these words make sense because I don't actually know if they do, but I'm getting it done because I'm on deadline. be kind to yourself. And now it's like, oh, both of my kids are in school for at least part of the day. I feel very blessed to have like 3 uninterrupted hours of time that I can do writing. But even that kind of doesn't capture the whole story, because like you said, there's so much more to being an author than just putting words in the page. And for us as well as podcasters, so much of that also is included in like homework reading for the podcast, but also coming up with questions and asking for doing all the back end stuff that podcasts required. So it's a lot of work. I'm really glad I have Adrian and MJ to kind of share that load with me, because I don't think I'd be able to do it on my own. So props to you, dude, for doing it on your own.
I'm freaking trying.
Yeah. Part of that like evolution of your career is knowing when you need to step away from certain things. So for me, I've mostly stepped away from social media. I do have someone who helps me out with that, and I am much happier and more productive. You still see me on there like posting random stuff. If it's something random that doesn't seem to fit with my feed, that was probably me posting it. Shout out to Jess, you're my queen. I love you.
She's doing a great job.
Yeah, she's amazing. But be kind to yourself, and it's okay if you can't do it all. Sometimes you might need to ask for help. Sometimes you might have to hopefully, budget and maybe stretch and hire someone for help, even if it's just for a couple weeks so you can get your head back above water. We're all just trying to do our best here, so do what you can.
It makes a lot of sense. I remember a few months ago, I was trying to spread myself super wide on the social media front, trying to hit all the platforms, put posts everywhere, and I was just spending so much time on it. It is. And I realized that I needed to pull back and just be like, all right, let's just focus on like 2 of them.
Yeah. And each platform, unfortunately, like are completely different. The skill sets you need for each platform, there are some like cross-pollination, but a lot of it is like, nope, you need an art degree for Instagram and to just, I don't know, be on crack for TikTok. I'm not sure.
Don't even get me started on TikTok. Like, I tried that. I was on there for like 2 months. I'm like, what is going on here? I don't understand how any of this works. Am I too old already?
Yeah. Go look at some of my old TikToks. They are the most unhinged videos of me like doing skits of my books. They are unhinged because they took so long to put together. And I'm like, I'm spending this much time to put a TikTok video together for like 500 views. What am I doing with my time?
And it's like 30 seconds long, and it's like, why does it take 6 hours?
I can't do it anymore, But that's social media for you.
Unfortunately, it is something that we have to participate in, either as indie or traditional authors. It just becomes more and more of a requisite the further we get into the future, I guess. But it is what it is. It's just all that free advertising. You can't give it up.
Yeah, and you hope that it'll pay dividends some way, somehow. But unfortunately, it's not something that you're going to see in like the immediate. So sorry.
It's really hard to quantify. You're never really sure if you're succeeding at it properly or not.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Try not to think about it too much.
Okay, we'll move on then. So we were talking a little bit about a lot of the books that really inspired you. If you had to pick one book to recommend to somebody, what book would it be?
This is a cruel question.
Well, I know it's really hard. You can narrow it down if you want.
Because you're being mean, I'm going to be mean back, and I'm going to say the Dungeons and Dragons player manual. Because
it's actually really good. That's a really good suggestion.
It's got everything. It's got world building. It's got character development. And I think playing D&D transformed my writing like night and day. I love D&D. It was what inspired the Queen of Days to begin with. But sitting down and putting yourself in the situation as a writer where you are not in control of the outcomes and you have no idea what the Chaos Gremlins across the table are going to do, let alone what the DM is going to throw at you. You just got to roll with the punches. It's an exercise in thinking on your feet and, collaborative storytelling and finding those little bits and pieces of character development and world building. It's just, there's something so magical about Dungeons and Dragons. And go play, guys. Find a group.
100% agree. I've been playing for think 2017.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. It is one of the best things that has really inspired stories and just writing in general. And God, that was just such a good recommendation, because that like so many players have never picked up that book, and they've been playing for years, and they should read that book.
Give it a good
Just
look.
saying.
Don't just look at your class. Look at all of them.
Just saying, you might know how to dash then. That's all I'm saying.
But it's super helpful.
Exactly. We are coming to close to the end of our time for this episode, so I did want to ask you one more question, though. Say you have come across a young writer, and they are asking for advice on how to get started on this crazy journey that you've now been doing for a while. What advice would you give them?
Well, with the normal caveat of, take every piece of writing advice with a grain of salt, because sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. For me, the biggest piece of writing advice that I wish I had gotten was just sit down and write the book. That 1,500 page monstrosity that I was talking about, part of what took me so long to finish it was I would start writing, I would write like 30 pages, and I would go out back and edit the crap out of those 30 pages. And I'd write 10 more pages. And I know something changed. I have to go back and make those pages perfect. And you can see how that like 1 step forward, 8 steps back kind of does not equal progress. So give yourself permission to suck and write the book. And this, again, it doesn't apply to everybody. Some people are able to do that type of writing and it works out fine. But if you find that you're having a hard time of getting to the end of a project, you're probably looking back too much. So if that's the case, that's fine. It's me. It's a bunch of other writers that I know. Just give yourself permission to be an absolute crazy person in that first draft and get to the end, because you can edit anything except for a blank page.
Oh, I love that last line. That was really good.
Why, thank you.
It's like you're a writer or something.
Like I do this. I work for a living. Did you know that?
I've heard. Somebody told me. What are we doing here? But Greta, this has been absolutely wonderful. We're definitely going to have you back on next week. Could you tell the people, one, where can they find you, and where can they find your books?
Yep, you can find me mostly on Instagram these days, but also somewhat unhinged on TikTok at Greta K. Kelly, and on my website, gretakkelly.com. And you can buy my books wherever books are sold. Absolutely perfect. All right, folks. We're going to be back next week with Greta Kelly as we talk about query letters. So until next time, let's be author adjacent together. See you, folks. And we did the thing. Yay!